Welcome to the Beard Speaks Podcast. All right, guys, what's going on? It's Pat here with the Beard Speaks Podcast, and thank you for coming back and checking out this episode. And what a killer episode I have. I have a killer episode for you today. Why is that? Because... not just because, but because I have Chris Czynszak here from the Decibel Geek Podcast. That is right. Good friend of mine from Tennessee. Man, I've been, couldn't wait to get this guy on the show. You know, he is one of the inspirations on why I even started a podcast. And that story will be told during the interview. I don't want to take up too much time because, man, did we talk and have a killer conversation. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But in the meantime, I do want to do a little shout out to everybody who's been checking out the show, because you guys are coming in waves, man, and I'm digging it, right? So shout out, obviously, Chicago, my hometown. Thank you guys for checking out the show. Who else do I got here? Look at this, man. Knoxville, Tennessee, Singapore. There's a town called Singapore in Singapore. Go figure that out. Wanqi in China, San Antonio, Texas. What's up, Texas? Miami, Florida, Rolling Meadows, Illinois, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, New York is checking in. We got Minnesota. I can't even pronounce it. But thank you for checking out the Beard Speaks Podcast, guys. Omaha, Nebraska. O'Fallon, Missouri. Taylorville, Illinois. What's up, Taylorville? Who else we got here? Hong Kong, man. Hong Kong checking out the show. Cleveland, Ohio. St. Paul, Minnesota. Man, it's killer to see all of these cities coming in. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know. On every show I try to shout out, but there's just so many cities, man, so I can't, I'll be going on forever. But again, I'm very humbled, and I appreciate you guys checking out the show. And where can you check out the Beard Speaks Podcast? Well, I'm glad you guys asked. Man, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcast Index, Overcast, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Podcast Addict, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, Good Pods, and Podfriend. And we're also on True Friends. I don't know what that is. It's not a porn site. I'm telling you guys, true fans. That kind of sounds a little bit like something, right? A little something going on there. But it ain't. But you can check out our show and go to www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. You can check out our show there. And there's links there for all our social media, man. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on... what else the hell are we on? We're also on YouTube, right? Didn't I just say that? But our show is now on YouTube. Not only do I got some videos up there, if you want to go check those out, but the show is actually streaming on YouTube. So you can check that out there too. But guys, without further ado, I don't want to sit here too long and yip and just chat your ear off, because this killer conversation with Chris is coming up. Stand by. All right, guys, so I have today on the show Chris Czynszak. What's up, buddy?
You actually got the name right. I'm impressed.
I did.
Already, man.
I do that too when people screw up my name. But see, I got your name right because I listen to you guys, so that's why I know it.
Well, it's Catalano, right?
Yep, Catalano. But people screw it up.
How do you screw up that? It's spelled. It's pronounced the way it's spelled.
Yeah, some will say Catalino. Catalano. They just get some weird accents to it. Screwed up.
Well, they're idiots.
Exactly. But man, thank you so much, dude. Yeah, definitely. This is awesome. I've been waiting a long time to do this. Like, again, you guys, your show inspired me to do a podcast. So I wanted to sit down with you and just kind of go over, like, what's your inspiration, man? You know, so it's like from one guy who got inspired from you, like, I'd like to hear what kind of kicked it off for you, story behind the story, man.
Well, yeah, well, as far as, you know, I guess starting with podcasting, I was coming from an era where I had done the office job thing for a while. I'd done restaurant work for a while. I kind of just bounced around. And I was working like truck stop job. I had a lot of different jobs. And landed a office job again. And I was like, all right, this is going to be boring as hell, but I got to find a way to pass the time. So this is like 2007, 8, somewhere around there. And so I got my first iPod, and that was, so then from there I learned what the iTunes store is. And then I see podcasting.
Yeah.
And I'm also I've mentioned it on the show. I mean, I'm obviously a music nerd, but also a big comedy nerd. Love stand-up comedy, love its history. And at the time, really the only people making any waves in podcasting were comedians. And like Adam Carolla he was the biggest at the time. Mark Maron with the WTF podcast was just getting started, and Nerdist, Chris Hardwick's podcast. People will remember him. He was the host of the MTV show Singled Out. With,
I remember that. Yeah.
So then he built like a whole nerd empire through Nerdist, and they were the biggest thing going for a while. So those shows were interesting to me, and I love that they were covering the history of comedy. And at the time, this was also around the same time I was piddling around with the idea of writing a book about Vinnie Vincent, who of course factors in later.
Yep.
So at the time I was taking phone interviews not through a dictaphone, like an Olympus dictaphone recorder, where you would run a cord into your phone receiver to record the phone call. And I'd recorded a few interviews with several people. I had already transcribed a lot of pages. I had a material wise, I had close to around 100 pages of material, and I had a lot of inside info. And then my computer completely crashed, lost everything, didn't have it backed up like a smart person.
Right.
But what I had left over were the audio recordings from the phone interviews. And it was around that time I started that office job, started listening to podcasts.
Yep.
I'm like, what if I could use some of these audio interviews for a podcast? And initially it was just going to be like a podcast, just putting the stuff out that I had, and I'd be done with it. But then I'm like, no, if I'm going to do this, it could be fun doing a show about rock and roll. So then the idea spawned from there. And I didn't even know I was looking for a co-host. I just wanted other people that would be as excited about what I was doing as I was.
Right.
Because in 2011 is when I started it, in April of that year. Podcasting was pretty underground back then.
Sure.
It was that, like I said, outside of those comedians, and it was big amongst a cult group of people, but it wasn't mainstream by any means. Most people had no idea what it was. So Craigslist was a thing at the time.
Exactly. I remember that. Yep.
I'm pretty sure Craigslist is still around.
Still around. Yeah.
At the time, a lot of us relied on it for everything. And, so I put there was like a gigs section, and I made it clear, and I was just like looking for fans of these artists, podcast starting up, who wants to help. And I had a few people respond to it, and it was funny because one of the people that responded to it and showed up at my house was this guy, Chris McDowell, who I wound up reconnecting with later, because then we just didn't, you can just tell when you talk to somebody if you have a chemistry. Right.
You can tell. Yeah. Definitely.
And like I said, I wasn't even so much looking for a co-host, and he wasn't even really auditioning to be a co-host. He was just like, I could cover concerts for you, or I could provide content. And it just didn't happen, but we wound up reconnecting later, and he's got a huge Twitch podcast called Kimchi Chris.
Twitch is a big thing right now too.
Yeah. He does well with the anime crowd and different types of rock. Big Kiss fan though, and we're still friendly with each other. But he was one, and then a DJ that I had known from the local rock station. We actually did an episode together, but it just didn't work. So I'd done a handful of episodes, and I put out the Vinnie Vincent special parts 1 and 2, and those got a lot of attention, like right off the bat. And it was just people that had worked with him got burned by him. So I put the ad in Craigslist, and then Aaron Camaro was one of the people that responded to it. And he actually lived like 10 minutes away from me, and
that's cool. Yeah.
Had radio experience. He was like, well, I was a DJ up in Wisconsin for a handful of years, and I've got all this experience. And I could tell just talking to him, I was like, well, this guy sounds like
right. He sounds like, exactly.
He sounds like he should do a podcast. I don't.
Right.
So, and like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted a co-host, but then he was like, well, it sounds fun. He's like, well, maybe we could do a show together. And, and then he was like, what does it pay? He loves to tell this story.
Yeah.
What does it pay? Like, well, it's not going to pay. Doesn't pay anything.
Right.
But you could get free access to shows, free CDs.
And it pays warm and fuzzy feelings.
Well, it's like it's kind of a fun way to, fly the flag for the music you love. And obviously, and a big impetus for it for me was because I hated what radio was doing so much.
Right.
It was just terrible, especially the early to mid 2000s. Not a fun time for rock radio.
Yep.
But that's kind of that's basically how the ball got rolling. And from there we were on our quest.
Yeah. I mean, cause I caught you guys, it was 2015 because I was just starting going through my cancer treatment. And again, same thing like you did. It's kind of funny how the story correlates because I had gotten an iPhone at one time, and it was probably a couple of years before that. It was probably like 2013. I got an iPhone, and I started looking through the App Store and podcast. What the hell is this? Right. And there was a lot of, like you said, some comedians, and there was a lot of pastors using podcasts. Podcasts at that time.
Tech people.
A lot of tech people.
In the tech world. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I got kind of like turned on the podcast. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I would listen to some stuff once in a while, but it wasn't really heavily into it until, like I said, in 2015, where then I was just grounded. I couldn't do anything, and I was just kind of stuck. And, at that time, my whole life turned upside down, and I was like, well, I'm going to sit in this chemo, get chemo in this chair for 5 hours, on every week. What am I going to listen to? And I want to find something that I'm into. So heavy metal music, right? Rock. So you guys popped up, and I'm like, oh, and I think the very first episode I listened to was an Albums Unleashed. And, it's going to kill me now that I don't remember which one it was, but, I was just like, now this is cool. I'm like, this is, because it's almost, you guys took, behind the music a step further, right? You're actually going deep dive into the albums and talking to either the producer or the band themselves. I was like, now this is awesome. So I basically sat there and I started, and then I went back catalog because I'm sitting there for 4 hours or so, and then just listening to all to all your podcasts, all your episodes, and I was just, it was a time where I needed that kind of distraction, obviously, and you and Aaron's voice are like burned in my head, so to speak, right?
Well, you were we had gotten nice messages and emails from people in the past about how much they love the show. And that was always great to get, but you were the first one where I was like, oh, wow, this is, what Aaron and I started as just a hobby and just a way to talk music and basically, get away from the wives and have some beers.
Sure.
To hear that it's had, a positive effect on someone going through, the worst of times.
Yeah.
That there's nothing fun about that. And, the wannabe comedian me is like, well, he's going through cancer treatment and he's listening to us for hours. Hasn't he suffered enough?
Right.
But no, it meant a lot to us and definitely caught us off guard. But it was great to finally get to know you through that process and to see you, healthy as a mule now.
Yeah. Looking now, we're 8 years, 8 years, knock on whatever this is made out of, but 8 years cancer free now. And it's crazy that I look back and it's like, that was like just like you said, it's just that part of your life where it's like, you don't expect it to happen. It came out of nowhere. But you never know what you're going to do with your music, with your art, with anything, how it speaks to somebody. And, you guys just happen to be there at just that time of my life where I was like, you guys got me through that just torture of sitting in that chair and getting chemo. You're by yourself, and you're getting drugged up in this crap. And the one thing that kept me kind of focused on just life and just alive was the stuff I love. And it's, music, and you guys talking about the music and everything like that. And you guys were funny. So you kept my attention, right? Yeah. So it was awesome, man.
It kind of echoes the power of rock and roll too.
Yeah, for sure.
The reason we would get into all the crazy bands we would get into growing up. It's an escape from reality.
Yeah.
It takes you away from the things that are bothering you or problems in your life. And that doesn't mean completely run away from your problems.
No, right.
You got to give them a break sometimes.
Sure.
You owe it to yourself to enjoy that's the gospel according to Paul Stanley. Enjoy yourself. Even though he can be a bit of a prick, but enjoy your life because you only get one of them.
Yeah. And it's funny too, and a lot of things came together, for me, just listening to you guys, especially Kiss, because I was always a huge Kiss fan too. I mean, it's kind of really how I got into rock and roll and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people my age when they were kids got into it that way because, I remember growing up, I grew up in just a hardcore Italian immigrant home, and my parents just listened to Italian music and Elvis. And then I got wind of Kiss, and boom, the floodgates opened up at that point. But so that whole angle, from listening to your show and you guys, all the Kiss talk was awesome. So that really had another kind of like, hook in my mouth to listen to the show, just like waiting to hear the next episode and the next episode. So no, it's pretty cool. So who knew, right? Who knew?
Oh, that's cool. And the album's Unleashed. I think that's the, for lack of a better term, theme show that we've done a lot of different themes. And, but that's kind of the one that tends to bring the most people in as new listeners. Cause it's so niche. It's one album.
Right.
So, and if you find somebody that just loves that, and we try to find off the beaten path ones like, Warrant's Dog Eat Dog. And
I love that. That was a great episode because that is, to me, one of my favorite albums.
Probably get the most praise for that one over all of them, really.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, I'd figured the one would be that we did one with Michael's studio with Rachel Bolan on the first Skid Row album.
Yep.
Because we had both of them on that one. And I thought we got good numbers on it. And we also did Ricky Rocket, for Look What the Cat Dragged In. We did that on his tour bus. Those all got good numbers, but like the one that I hear from people the most about is that Dog Eat Dog episode.
That was a great one. What was your favorite one though? Which one was the one that, like, after you recorded it, you went back and listened to it and like, I want to listen to that again. That was good.
Man, there's so many really. It really just depends on like the type of experience I get out of it. Now, as far as in-person experience, as far as talking to somebody that's right in front of me, to me, just because it was also surreal was the Desmond Child one.
Okay.
We went to his studio and office down in Nashville, and the building used to be a bank vault. It was a bank branch, and it had the vault downstairs.
Okay.
And upstairs where the branch was his office with his desk and everything. And downstairs was the vault, and that's where his studio was.
Wow.
And down there in the little hallway area was like, gold and platinum albums for all these artists. I think Alice Cooper's jacket from the Poison video was hanging in the hallway. And then having a recording studio in a bank vault is just so freaking cool. Yeah. Now, it almost didn't go very well because he actually kept us on ice waiting down there for like 45 minutes after the scheduled time because he was working with some singer upstairs for it was for the CMA for the country music coming up. And so I'm trying to be patient because it's like, man, this is cool that we're getting to hang. Right. But it also makes your nerves increase. And then Aaron started getting kind of annoyed by it. But and like, even it wasn't that, as far as what we got out of him, wasn't the greatest interview. Yeah. But as a fan of his work, big inspiration to be around him. The one with Ricky Rocket was a good interview and also a great experience. I'll tell you what my favorite is. Yeah. And it's probably my favorite interview and experience was the Motley Crue 94 albums Unleashed that we went to East Nashville and sat in a bar with John Corabi for 3.5 hours.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Talking about that album and just getting sloshed together. Yeah. And it was so fun. And he definitely outdrank all of us with no problem.
Yeah. I met him here in Chicago at a summer festival show that my band was on that bill. So there was a bunch of, I think, Slaughter, Queensryche was on that. There was a couple of them, but he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guy. Yeah. And but yeah, and that was a long time. I tried it. I think I tried for like 2 years to get that interview locked down.
Wow.
And because I'm really good friends with his best friend, and that guy kept trying, and that guy listens to the show.
Yeah.
And he's also from Chicago. But yeah, he worked hard to get us that interview.
Yeah.
But it was totally worth it because we all stumbled out of that bar when it was over.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember. So I think the one I did catch. One of the first ones was the one with Mark Slaughter. I think you guys were in a diner or something.
Oh, there's a story just on how we got to that place.
Yeah.
That was at an old Charlie's. And
okay. I don't know, Charlie's.
It was supposed to be at one coffee place, and Mark lives out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we stop at the exit closest to where he lives in the middle of nowhere, and it's a drive for us. But we were scheduled to start at like 8:00 at night. So we go to one place, and they're like, "Sorry, we're closing."
Oh.
So then we go to the next place. Sorry, it took us. We had the old Charlie's there was the third place, and they were getting ready to close, but the some of the waitresses on the staff knew who he was, and they're like, "Oh no, you can stay as long as you want."
Cool.
But yeah, that was a fun interview, and I wish I could share more of the stuff he told us without the mic turned on, but I can't. But yeah, he spilled plenty of beans on the mic though.
Yeah, he did. I remember that definitely. Yeah, those. It's funny in Tennessee. I laugh because here in Chicago everything is like 5 minutes away. In Tennessee, when you were saying everything was like a hall in the middle. Everything's in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee. So every time I'm down there, I'm like, "Where are we going?" It's in the middle of nowhere. Everything is in the middle of nowhere. It takes me a half an hour just to get here or there. Where out here, it's like I'm spoiled because everything is within my bubble. I call it. So it's kind of funny. But,
everything's 30 to 45 minutes away here.
Yep. That's why it's funny because like for me, I can go on with my car on empty for probably 3 or 4 days because I've got about 50 ones. I think I got about 50 something miles. So every time my wife, because she's been in Tennessee for 16 years, every time she sees that light go on, she panics. I'm like, "Babe, I got like 3 days. What do you think is going to happen? We're not going anywhere, But she's got that. You got to fill it up because everything's far away.
Yeah, I've run out of gas in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee too, so I get her fear.
Oh, that's awesome. But so cool. So then you got Aaron involved, and did he cry when he found out he wasn't getting paid? But I'm sure he was like, "No, this is fun anyway." Yeah,
he was. Well, he was already working in the wrestling business, which doesn't
pay anyway, so, right?
He's like, "I'm not getting paid much here." So, but no, it's like, "No, it sounds cool, and I live down the street. Let's give it a shot," And I was happy to have it because I had been doing it for just a few months on my own, and I learned in that short time, I was like, I cannot do this solo. It was no fun to do it solo either because it's just, and I'm like the most self-critical person ever. So then I was like, well, at least if Aaron's talking, half the show's good.
Right.
I still, to this day, I still hate my voice, but
me too.
It was, and you got a good voice on the mic. You have a much better voice on mic than
Thanks.
I do. But no, he was a huge boost immediately. The show would never have turned into anything without him.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of languished, and it was more of just an experiment for me. And then once he got on board, and once we saw numbers climb, and then we're like, "Oh man, we actually got something going on here."
Yeah.
And then just all the friendships you make with all the other shows.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about it. And I've told people this over and over again. Before new media or podcasting, whatever you want to call it, everyone pretty much would say, "Oh, the best days of my life and the best friendships of my life were my high school years." Because that's what most people look back
right.
Through podcasting, some of the best friendships I've ever made have started in my 40s and later.
Yeah.
And without it, that never would have happened.
So when you guys got everything kind of figured out, like your format, I guess we'll call it. I mean, was that something pre-planned, or did you guys just stumble into like, "Hey, this is kind of cool. Let's just go this way"? Because that's, like I said, one of the things that inspired me to do the show was listening to your show, right? So it's to me, as an outside listener, it doesn't seem anything other than you guys just turn the mic on and just start talking about what you love, which is what is awesome about the show. Is that kind of how it just went?
Oh no, I mean there's a lot more work that goes into
Oh well,
it
of
than
course, right, yeah.
But no, it's total trial and error.
Yeah.
A lot of error.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because early on I pushed Aaron because I'm always a grass is always greener person. So I'm always looking at what other people
are doing.
Why don't we do that?
Sure.
And the Kiss shows always got good numbers.
Yeah.
The Kiss podcast would just get big numbers. I'm like, man. And like I said, I did those 2 Vinnie specials and they blew up.
They blew up
to our other stuff. And I'm like, well, shit, you mentioned Kiss and the numbers are higher. I told Aaron, why don't we just become a Kiss show? Because I was, and I'm not arrogant about much, but useless Kiss knowledge, I'm arrogant about.
Yeah.
I'll take anyone on in Kiss trivia.
Right.
Other than Sonny Pooney, which I'll take him on in legit Kiss trivia, but not in his type of trivia where it's like what song was number 14 on the Swedish chart.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
Who does?
Right.
But anyway, I don't mean to talk smack about Sonny. Well, I guess I do.
Yeah.
But no, I was pushing for that. And then Aaron smartly was like, nah, man. He's like, we're going to run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And at the time they were still active. And I was like, nah, we could, we could have pulled off a few years, I think, with no problem. But he's just like, we're going to get bored of it. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And then it made sense. Cause then I was like, the compromise, well, we'll do the Christmas in July thing and we'll do all Kiss shows through July.
Right.
And it was just like, let's try it as an experiment, see how we feel after doing 4 weeks of Kiss. Yeah. And after 4 weeks of Kiss, we're like, let's talk about something else.
It's just repetitive. Yeah.
Well, you just get burned out on it. Yeah. There's so much other good music out there. So many.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You want to touch on.
You do. Well, you had a lot of cool stuff. I remember one time you had the wardrobe lady.
That
remember
was one of my
that?
favorite interviews.
Oh my God, dude.
Pixie Esmond.
Yeah, it's her name. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I remember people like, so you interviewed the wardrobe?
Yeah, that's cool though.
I'm like, yeah, and we did it twice.
Yeah. And that was a great episode because you got information that, you normally wouldn't get, right? Another lens of working with Kiss and whatnot, Yeah,
the crew people are always the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always give you stories you've never heard.
Right. So what, if you can even talk about it, what led to all the, Vinnie Vincent debacle stuff?
Oh boy, we could go for hours on that.
I know.
I'll try to sum it up as far as how it ended up happening. Because as a Kiss fan growing up, I didn't get hooked on Kiss until '87. So Crazy Nights was the new album. Vinnie was already in the past at that point.
Yeah. And
I was aware of Vinnie Vincent Invasion because I was a big fan of horror movies.
Yeah.
And the Nightmare on Elm Street tie-in. I remember seeing them on MTV a little bit, not much.
Right.
And no one really cared about them.
Yep.
And it's odd. I didn't really go in and look into Vinnie or his era much as a fan. Not until the 90s. But honestly, at the time, I never really just dove in and got interested in it. And then he became a mystery because in the mid 90s, he disappeared.
He disappeared, right? Yeah.
And then I got more hooked on the lore and mystery about his absence and what happened. And then all the stories you hear about people he burned and conventions he screwed over. And, so it was more, I was a big fan of internet message boards, still am. And there was a lot going on in the Vinnie world on the internet.
Yeah.
And because there was a fan forum that I found, but like these fans knew like every little piece of minutia there was, like the most crazy intimate details. So I started getting hooked on the mystery and learning about all this stuff and all the what if and what happened to him. Is he dead? Is he a woman now? That was a rumor for a long time.
Too. Yeah.
So you couldn't help but get fascinated by it, even if you weren't a fan of the music.
Sure.
But at the same time, I started diving in musically going, well, let me listen to this and see what I think. And I was always a fan of the shredder guitar player. I love Paul Gilbert. I love Jason Becker. I loved a lot of that stuff, but for some reason I viewed him as an outsider, even to those guys. But as I got into learning and paid attention to what he was doing, he would do some very unique stuff.
Yeah.
And, like he would do this chicken picking thing with his pinky.
Yeah.
That I don't think I ever saw anyone else do. Maybe Jerry Reed, but I started getting interested in the music more. and checking out the stuff from Treasure and the Invasion stuff and all the demos floating around. So I just got fascinated with it. I started kind of getting obsessed with it, really, because it was such a mystery.
Right.
And I had people that probably knew way more than they should because they went too far.
Yeah.
Still giving me information because I threw it out there. I'm a longtime fan, and I used to write a lot. I used to do a lot of writing for rock websites and stuff. Nothing that legit. But I was like, I used to love writing, so maybe I'll write a book about Vinnie Vincent. And that's when I started getting people sending me stuff. And it just got more fascinating. And then I find out he lives 10 minutes away from me.
Oh my God.
Literally 10 minutes away.
That's insane.
And I because I get told his address, and this is before the arrest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a person who said, here's his real address. So of course I drove over there and took a look. I didn't go into the big fence around the whole house.
Yep.
And then through a weird weird thing of irony, I took a second job as a side hustle throwing the advertising newspapers that you get in your driveway.
Yep.
Well, guess who was on my route?
Oh no.
He was.
You can't make this shit up.
Oh, and then so that was my way of, and I didn't even mean to get it.
Yeah.
I was just doing that as a side hustle.
Right.
But of course I get the list of all the homeowners, and it's got Diane Cusano written on that. So I was like, well, I know who that is.
Yeah.
So, but I don't bother him or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm posting on these message boards and telling people, interviewed Rick Fox for the hopefully coming soon book, mentioning that. And, some people are like, oh, he's going to sue you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So anyway, through that process, I do interviews with Ed Roman, Rick Fox, Anthony Resta, who was working with him in Connecticut, Hirsch Gardner. And so I lose all that stuff in the computer crash. That's when I decide to start the podcast up. I start making posts about that. And for some reason that set him off because he was promoting his guitar line that he was putting out through Tom Pilecki, who was a guitar builder out in Arizona. And it was just a YouTube video with some badly photoshopped artwork and images of the guitars, and stay tuned for Vinnie Vincent.
Right.
And we just had, every time he wanted to update people, he would update the description for that one video. This was his way of communicating with people.
Right.
And so one of the updates around that time was, it's come to our attention that there's an unauthorized broadcast of Vinnie Vincent being planned. To the person deciding to do this, make no mistake, if you go through with this, you'll be sued to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah.
So of course I put it out anyway.
Yes, you did.
So
I remember it vividly. Yeah. And I remember you sending me a message about, we're not talking about that today.
I was like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's freedom of speech.
Yep.
But anyway, so we got off on a bad foot there.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the fact that the people I was interviewing had bad dealings with him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, I can't have a guest on and say, you're not allowed to say something negative about him.
Right.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So there was other things going on in real life behind the scenes, and I can't go into because I don't want to make an accusation and end up in court.
Sure.
Well, let's just say it was not a good relationship.
Right.
Or he didn't like me much. And, but I would always try to praise his guitar playing, his songwriting, and Aaron would too. And Aaron would always wrap up those episodes with, Vinnie always has the opportunity to come on, and, state his piece.
Yeah.
And then then we go from there to, him starting to come out of hiding. They announced the Atlanta thing in 2018. And at this point, we're on his shit list because we've had several episodes on him with people that he was burned. He burned. But I had his lawyer's email address, and I was like, because we were like, well, it'd be cool to go and be there.
Right.
And I was just like, and honestly, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, it'd be cool to mend fences, and maybe we can, clean the slate.
Yeah.
And so I email him, and then I get an email back from the lawyer saying, unequivocally, you guys are not allowed there. It's because of the stuff you have allowed to be said on your show. And so I was like, okay, well. And then we decided to do like a best Vinnie guitar solos episode.
Yeah.
just a nice, let's butter him up a little bit. But also to kind of reinstate, we've always been positive about his musical contribution.
Yep.
Just to kind of reiterate that. And then I got an email back from the lawyer that Vinnie was very happy with your latest episode. Yeah. It's okay if you guys, plus they wanted our money for the
course
VIPs we were going to purchase. So yeah, he got our money for that. But I was like, well, when else are we going to get to see him? So we met, and it was a weird vibe between him and us, but he acted polite, but you could tell there was something. There was just a weird vibe.
Yeah.
But man, look who we're talking about.
Well, he signed your stuff. I remember you had that big poster and everything.
Stuff, and Aaron was selling him on coming on the show.
Yeah.
So it was a good, we got real close with his old guitar tech that showed up, this guy, Bill, that was a great guy. And so it was a fun weekend, and then going through his, and then he wound up working with Randy, who was the guy that had him doing all the comic book shows and the signing sessions.
Right.
But I got to know him, and he was who helped get us set up to do the interview. And it was so fucked up because we were like, look, we'll both take the day off.
Yeah.
We'll go to wherever, because we knew he was in the area.
Yeah.
I was like, we'll just drive to wherever he is and we'll set up and we'll do a nice professionally recorded interview. He would not have it.
Huh.
It has to be over the phone. I'm like, well, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I could drive to you.
Yeah.
So he does it. We do the interview. The interview actually went really well. I think we covered a lot from the making of that first Invasion record that he really didn't talk about on anybody else's show after that. And that would have been enough for us. I mean, I wasn't even going to bring up Rocket Pod, but Aaron's like, you got to ask him.
Yeah.
You got him on the phone and it's gone well. You might as well bring it up.
Yeah.
So we bring it up and we pitch him on it and just say, hey, it's local. It's in town. It'd be cool if you could come down. You could make some good money on it.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? I think I'll do it. He's like, I have a good feel. I want to help you guys out. You've supported me. Let me support you. I'm there for you guys.
Yeah.
And then we go through a lot of back and forth on the details and the artwork and all this shit. And then I do a pre-sale thing with a separate ticket just for him. Stuff, because the arrangement was he gets all the money. I didn't even want a dime from it. I just wanted to attach him to the event and be cool. But he wants 2 security guards. He wants a roped off area. He wants all this shit. And I agreed to that. And then his pre-sales didn't sell as much as he expected because he had already kind of shot his wad on a lot of his autograph shows already. And he also kind of refused to promote it outside of posting like once about it. And also we were months out. It wasn't, I hadn't even started the paid advertising part because you don't do it too far in advance.
Right.
And I was telling his manager that. And then the manager comes back and then also they found it was just long thing with an internet message board where something that was attributed to my username.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's not even something I put on there. It's the site assigned it, but it was derogatory towards Vinnie and they made it look like, and he thought it was me saying that. Honestly, that was just a diversion to try to get out of the appearance and to basically get me on my toes. Cause then, I get to hear that, oh, he's really, it was never, I'm upset that sales are bad. It's no, he saw this online and he's really upset with you and you need to contact him and apologize. And I contact him and then I hear, well, at this juncture, I'm going to need a guarantee, a deposit and a guarantee, which was never in the arrangement.
Right.
It was, you get to keep all the money for your tickets.
Yeah.
And I don't get a dime and you show up, you make money, you leave.
Yeah.
And he goes, you can contact Randy for the numbers. And first I was like, okay. And then I thought about it and, it had been a long few weeks dealing with him and my wife had to go through it with me. And I just looked over at her and I was like, I think this is our sign to just get out.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, his history. It's not going to get any better.
No.
I was like, you're right. I'm not going to have him push me around. So then I got back and I said, look, I basically was professional. I was like, at this point, I don't think we can make this work. I wish you all the best. And he said, to his credit, he goes, I wish you all the best with your show. Hope it's successful. But what he didn't like was then I went on Decibel Geek and I stated what happened and how it made me feel.
Right.
which was a bridge too far for him.
God forbid you did that.
Yeah, God forbid me point out that he took what he thought was just a goofball fanboy.
Yeah.
And tried to put him over a barrel and screw him after he had put tickets on sale for a few weeks. I wasn't going to do that.
No.
You know. And that's when he went on the warpath on me on Facebook.
Yep.
And I'm the reason he doesn't have a Facebook page anymore.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because there was an insane amount of people that had my back that just launched right into him.
Yeah.
He was getting brutalized.
Yeah.
I almost felt bad for him. Almost.
Yeah. Well, he set it all up, man, you know?
Yeah. And then everybody, to this day, I hear people, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm like, isn't that the most Vinnie way that it would have ended, though?
Yeah.
It would have been a shock if he had gone through.
If he won. Yep.
But the only thing I'll correct people on, because then people, Vinnie backed out on you. I'm like, no, he did not. He was just fine still coming if I was going to end up throwing a bunch of money
at him. Yeah. That's what it's all about in the end.
But you don't do that 2 months after I've announced your appearance, you know?
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell. That's the story.
Yeah. That's crazy. But it's funny that somebody of that stature, who was at that stature, kind of brought it down to that piddly, you know, argument over some money, and just it's stupid.
That's just his MO with everybody.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Anyone that's useful to him, he'll find you're used to him, and then he will throw you away like yesterday's garbage.
Sad.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah.
I will say that. That I believe he's a sociopath.
Right. It's crazy. Allegedly. So that's crazy. But with that aside, so Rockin' Pod, and I got to get down there, man. God, I've been like dying to, and every time it comes up, I got something's going on. Was it last year?
April 11th through 13th next year.
Okay. I gotta figure it out. Cause I think, when was it on St. Patrick's Day? Was that last year or the year prior?
No, it was it St. Patrick's? Yeah, it was St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. Cause that's my birthday. My birthday's on St. Patrick's Day. And I was telling Lisa, I'm like, babe, it's on my birthday this year.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yeah, I was trying to get it. I was trying to make it happen, and I couldn't due to work and stuff, so I just couldn't get away. But how did that?
Hopefully it'll be warmer this time.
Yeah,
it was like a freak weekend of cold weather.
Yeah. Well, March is always unpredictable, and you guys kind of get. It's weird because when I go down to Tennessee, it's funny because we spend a lot of time down there, right? And when I pack, I always think I'm going south, so I don't pack sweaters or hoodies or anything like that. I just kind of cool, with a t-shirt, and then it's cold, and then I'm complaining the whole time I'm down there going, this is ridiculous, But but I love Tennessee. It's like home away from home for me. So. But I got to get down there for a Rockin' Pod for sure. But how did that? I remember your first one. How did how did that idea, pop in your head? And you're like, I'm going to put this together, because I know just for myself, I used to do yearly, and I had, since COVID hit and everything's been changed, and the music scene has changed so much all over the place. And I truly have a lot of dear friends that are in cover bands, and I don't dog on any of that, because I played covers too, but the original music scene is so dead right now. And I'm starting, the more bands I talk to, I just interviewed a band on a couple shows ago. I interviewed a band in London, really cool band, man. And we're talking, and the same thing over there. It's like cover bands are taking over, and original bands have nowhere to play. But I used to do a Toys for Tots benefit every year. And I started doing it with just a bunch of local bands, and I had a connection with the U.S. Marines here in Chicago that ran, because I ride my motorcycle in Toys for Tots. I've been doing it for years, and I said I want to do more. I know you guys are getting a lot of toys and everything, but I just something I want to do more. I love helping out kids and stuff. So I'm like, I could put together a show. So I started putting together a show, and they actually would come out and send out 2 Marines, and I did a whole thing, and it was really cool. But it grew to the point where at one time I became really close with Bill Leverty, we were both endorsed with the same whammy bar company. There was this cool new invention, and we were both endorsing them. So I met him, and we kind of hit it off with hockey and stuff like that. I'm a big Blackhawks fan. He's a Predators fan, so we're kind of busting each other's balls there. But really cool guy. And one year, I just had this bright idea. I'm like, I'm going to have Firehouse, headline this Toys for Tots show here in Chicago. And I found the place that would do it, and the owner loved Firehouse. And I said, it is charity. I'm like, so I don't know how the money thing is going to work out, but I'll tell you, I emailed Bill, and I'm like, hey man, what do you guys think of this? And they were like, yeah man, we'll do it for X amount, which was really 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 dirt cheap. And half the guys were like, CJ, God rest his soul. He was in Milwaukee at the time. He goes, yeah, I'll just drive there. So we could save money on flights and this and that. I was like, they were 100% on board with it. And dude, it was awesome. So I had Firehouse do one. I had Lita Ford do one. And they were just, I finally got Miller to sponsor. I had the Blackhawks, the White Sox. Now, just going through that, on top of putting together a set, learning, the material, playing in the band at the time, doing all the promotion, and then putting together this whole damn thing. How the hell do you do rock? I mean, I can understand, I could feel like, how the hell do you do that, man? You've got a huge thing going on there. And I know for myself, like the closer I got to Toys for Tots, the more like hair I lost.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that I'm not the guy running it now.
Right.
I turned it over to Tracy, but Tracy's been there since year one too.
Yeah.
But no, it's a team. I mean, it's definitely never been all me. But no, I mean, the way the idea came about was, I mean, the original idea was a guy named BJ Cramp who does, or Brian J. Cramp, that's his pen name now, because he wrote a great book about Cheap Trick.
Okay.
That just came out. Also hosts the Rock and or Roll podcast. But no, he was one of the, group of like 10 or 20 guys that we would all kind of go on each other's shows. And it would just always be like, we'd have such a blast talking to each other. And then we'd get done with the episode and just be like, man, it sucks. We can't like go get a beer together and hang out, because you're in Milwaukee and I'm in Nashville.
Yeah.
So he just had this idea. He's like, we should do some sort of a get together, like just where a bunch of us can get together and hang out. And that was the germ of the idea.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, where do we do it? Well, first it was how are we going to pay for that?
Right.
And like, well, why don't we do a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe? And I was like, okay, like, so what the listeners would donate money to get us together. And he's like, yeah. And so that was the original way we did it, was we did a GoFundMe, and it was basically to cover expenses of running the event. And for those that, the podcast that we wanted to bring in, if they couldn't afford their flight, it would go to covering that or their hotel.
Sure.
But really no paid celebrity guests for the first one.
Yeah.
Really the first two, everyone else. And then the guests would come, mostly local guys.
Right.
But it was favors being called in. Like, Michael Wagner had already been on my show a couple times. So he's like, yeah, I'll come down. Sure. Paul Taylor, from Winger.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll come down. And Anthony from Tora Tora, I'll come down. And then, just everyone else using their connections.
Right.
That's how we wound up getting, Mark Slaughter came to the first one.
Yeah.
But it was just, we had no idea what to do. And I wasn't intending on being the guy running it, but it's like, we'll do the GoFundMe. Where are we going to do it? We're like, well, Nashville just makes sense because it's a tourist town.
Right.
And just because I was the guy who lived here, I wind up doing it because I kept trying to rally the troops, but when it comes to putting on an event in a specific town, it's really kind of hard to delegate that to people that don't live in that
don't
town.
live there. Yeah.
So a lot of it was just using whatever little Rolodex I had and the Rolodex of people around me that could get people involved and interested. And the first 2 years were done purely through crowdfunding, and both years it achieved over 10K in crowdfunding to make it happen. But it never was a profitable thing, but, and then, in 2019, went to the legit route with registration cost and VIP and everything, doing it in a hotel. And
sure.
that was a scary year because it was the big step.
Yep.
And got through it. The event grew, but it gets bigger every year, but also gets costlier every year. So, and the stress level for me, some people are wired for that, but as an introvert with social anxiety, not a fun job.
Yeah.
It mentally took a toll on me last year.
Yeah.
So honestly, to be totally candid with you, I was going to just put it on the shelf and just be like, we had a good run.
Yeah.
But Tracy, who's been there since year one, and Tracy went to college for event planning.
Okay.
So this is her career of choice. It was never mine.
Right.
I was just the guy that was able to try to make it
happen. Right. Right.
But she's been helping all this time and always has great ideas. And this is what her field of choice. And I gave her every warning I could of how stressful it's going to be. And I'm still, somebody to listen to talk to. And I'm helping, in certain areas, but I've definitely taken a big step back because I needed to for my own sake. But she's decided to take it on and she's doing everything she can. And trying to tell people, give her a shot, have the same belief in her that you had in me because she's been here the whole time.
Right.
So if anyone knows how to run it, it's her.
Yeah, that's cool. I know those events are not easy. And like I said, the stress level I went through and I can totally see that. And I was doing it all myself.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of it myself. But it's just, my kids are all grown now. So it's honestly, at time wise, it would be easier to do it now. But,
right.
Like I said, you find out a lot about yourself and what you're good at and what you're good to get through and but I was just like, I got to work on myself. I was putting myself on hold, and damage gets done when you don't pay attention to yourself.
100%.
So I was like, is this event worth that? Not really. So let's move on. But I'm excited because now I get to go this next year and experience it like everyone else has.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Yeah, just kind of take a step back and just be there.
Different for me. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I'm actually going to do podcasts and interviews.
Are you? Okay, cool.
Yeah. We're going to be a legit podcast on the ground doing
nice. Yeah, because you just didn't have the time to be able to do that, running it.
I only did one interview the whole time that I've run Rockin' Pod.
Wow.
And I won't even. It wasn't the artist's fault. It was just a scheduling mix up, and Aaron and I kind of got pulled in to do one real quick. Yeah. And it was so bad that we never released it. So I've never released an interview I've done other than the ones I've done on stage.
Right.
Like 2021, we got to, Aaron and I, air quotes, interviewed Billy Sheehan and Greg Bissonette about the making of Eat 'Em and Smile.
Okay.
The truth is, we really just sat there and listened to them reenact everything for an hour.
That's funny.
Because they have perfect memories and they like to talk.
Yeah.
It was the easiest interview I've ever done.
That's easy. Yeah. No, the easy button. Yeah, it's always fun when people are more open and then you just have to sit there and listen. Hit record and go.
I'll take that anytime over someone who's just a cold fish that I can't get them to say anything.
No, I know that's the worst. I tried that too. When I switched, like I said, I think it was, I'm on my third season now doing the show. So I guess we'll say season 0, like before I really took it off, right? Because I didn't have an idea of where it was coming from. So I had talked to someone. I think it was. Yeah, it was probably right around the holidays because I had ordered this beard oil. This is how funny. This is how the podcast the idea was born. Because I was sitting there for like 4 or 5 months. The old show I was doing with these other guys kind of ended, and I still had the passion to do the show. I enjoyed it, and I said, "This is kind of cool. I have the equipment. I want to do this on my own, but I don't know what's the topic going to be. What am I going to do?" And I had ordered this beard oil from this company that was called Kris Kringle or something like that. It was like a Christmas scent. And so I get this stuff and it was horrible. I'm like, oh man, this is not what it's supposed to smell like, And so I decided I was going to email them. But before I was able to do that, I got an email from the company saying, hey, we screwed up. We put the wrong scent in the bottle and shipped it out with the Kris Kringle, whatever the heck it was called, label. And so I emailed back on, you guys just redeemed yourself, because I was about to email you guys and rip into you and say, man, this is horrible, because everything I've ever purchased from you is awesome. And a couple of emails back and forth. Turns out I'm emailing the CEO. And wow. Yeah, so he emails me back in the end and goes, I had a great time chatting back and forth with you. Can I call you? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I give him my number. He hits me up and we talk for like an hour and a half. And at one point he's like, can I send you, different scents and this and that, and can kind of like be a soundboard for me and tell me what you think of this and that. I'm like, yeah, sure. I have no problem doing that, And it popped in my head, The Beard Speaks. It was like the weirdest thing, just came out. And then I walked into the dining room. I remember my wife was in there working, and I'm like, babe, The Beard Speaks podcast. I'm like, it's like, well, what's it going to be about? I'm like, whatever I want. Music, motorcycles, beard, stuff I know that I know how to talk about. And I'll interview, people that, I want to get their stories out, like, musicians, artists. I love going to Comic-Con right every year. So I would meet different, writers and things like that. And not just comic books, but novels and things like that. And I would interview them, and it turned into this little animal, because like I said, in the beginning, your show inspired me to do it. And the way you guys put your show together, I started, like you do, like the grass is greener. I'm like, okay, what are they doing here? And I'm going to borrow this, I'm like, I like how they do that, because you guys used to do shout outs in the beginning of your show of people who would leave comments and that kind of thing, So I started reading through, because it was amazing to me, like you were talking about, when you put the show out there, it's almost like you cross your fingers and like, are people going to listen? And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my analytics. I'm like, well, people are listening to me in Japan. Why?
Yeah.
And then it was just growing and growing. And in the list of cities all over the United States, I'm going, it's just me behind this mic. I'm like, this is really cool. I guess what I'm doing, people are digging, and they're coming back and they're listening. So I started doing what you guys did by just shouting out cities, kind of just doing a shout out. Thank you for listening, and then just shouting out everybody who was listening to the show. And that became like a real staple of what I do. But like you said, it's trial and error.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stuff that didn't work, but, I found, I just found the niche, and, it just started kind of growing from there. And, I thank you guys, because like I said, it was you guys have been my inspiration all these years, kind of like like George Lynch was my guitar hero. You guys are like
you can't put me on that
my podcast heroes.
I'm not worthy of George Lynch status. But, we're gonna try to get him for Rockin' Pod. Actually.
Oh, dude, he's a really cool guy. So I guitar teched for him a couple of times. Mm-hmm. He's a really nice guy. He'll bust your balls. He's got a very, very weird sense of humor. Yeah, I remember I was having dinner with him in the band. It was Lynch Mob that I teched when he was here. Did it a couple, like 3 or 4 times, and it was hilarious. He had this strap lock on this guitar that just wouldn't come off. So I'm sitting there with his guitar while they're eating, and I'm just kind of twiddling away or whatever, and I was trying to adjust the strap lock, and he was just busting my chops, But he's cool. But one thing that blew me away, the one show that I was at that he was here for, he had Michelangelo Badio opening for him, and he comes up next to me and he's like, I gotta watch this guy. It was like during a sound check, so it was cool to be standing next to George Lynch, like going, holy shit, look at this guy play, this double neck. Yeah. He's like, I think it's crazy, man, So he's a really humble guy, really cool, and just a funny sense of humor, but he's a nice guy.
Speaking of Michelangelo Badio, have you ever seen the classic horror movie Shock 'em Dead?
No, I never have.
His hands are used in that movie.
Are they really?
It's about like a guy who wants to become he sells his soul to the devil to be like a rock guitar legend. And for some weird rock trivia, I don't know if you ever looked into the early LA scene with bands like a la carte.
Oh yeah.
And Snow. You heard of Snow?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Carlos Cavazzo was a guitar player.
Yeah.
But the drummer in Snow was Stephen Quadros.
Okay.
And Stephen Quadros, I think, became like a UFC announcer. But he's the guy, he's the star of the movie as the rock guitar guy. But they have a guitar with the double neck or the four necks, and they use Michelangelo Badio's.
Really? That's hilarious.
It's an awful movie, but it's great.
I love all those old cheesy movies. It was like Shocker. Yeah. I can't sing, but that was
came
hilarious.
Out right around the same time.
The same time, yeah. There was, there were some great soundtracks back then. I think, what was that Arnold Schwarzenegger one where he came out of the movie?
Oh, Last Action Hero.
Yes. That had some great soundtrack. And I Queensryche's one of my favorite bands. They had a great song on that soundtrack. But that's you got to get some Queensryche. And now that would be a really cool what do you call it? Albums Unleashed.
I don't know if we'll do an Albums Unleashed yet, but Aaron just can't get into the band.
Really?
And I told him we need to do a best and worst of Queensryche.
Yes.
I think he's ready to do it because I think. Although I was like, I'm happy to do the first 5-6 albums. I'm in. After that, although the last few have been good.
They have, yeah. I'm a Queensryche aficionado. So if you need somebody, let me know. I love them. I've got everything. I've got every B-side. I got every. Like I had to make a decision at one point in time, kind of like who's going to get my money. I guess that's the key, right? Who's going to get my money? And it just ended up being Doc and Queensryche. They were my favorite. So I started getting the imports and that kind of thing. Because at one time I was like, okay, this is crazy. I love all kinds of stuff, And I'm like, but I can't be picking up all these rarities and everything from every single band. I'll go broke, right? So I made the decision.
Do you like the end of the Tate era? Like the Dedicated to Chaos, and American Soldier. So
on this show, I did. It was a 2-part episode, and we dug into everything Queensryche, and so I did a lot of studying. So in the beginning, when you're first listening to this stuff, I don't know if I was just blind to it because they're like my favorite band, but I didn't really realize how much of that era you're talking about where the band really wasn't involved. It was Tate and somebody else writing all the music, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think American Soldier, half of them didn't even play on it.
Yeah, it's mostly Tate and Kelly Gray.
Which I don't want to say, God forbid, he's not the greatest guitar player.
Average.
He's that right, and because when he played with them and he toured with them, and I've been watching them. I go to every show. Lackluster, so to speak, those shows where he just really wasn't carrying, that sound.
I saw Jeff Tate's Queensryche with Kelly Gray, Robert Sarzo, and Rudy Sarzo, and Brian Tishy on drums.
On drums, yeah.
And Sash Jordan was there on background vocal.
Really?
And the band was great. The songs were good, but it was me and about 75 other people in a hall that would hold 1,200.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Tate got he got the raw end of the deal, I think, on this. But I mean, he started the crap, I guess, with the band, and everything. And I think spitting on Rock and Phil and stuff like that. It's not cool,
Yeah, I think it's mostly him. I get the vibe that he could be pretty messed up when he gets angry. Although with Scott Rockenfield, he's really gone crazy.
He has too. I know, it's kind of weird. But
I don't know. There's something up with that band.
Yeah, but they're firing on all cylinders now. I do love the new stuff. I do like Todd's voice. I mean, he's awesome. I mean, I don't want to compare like Journey did, right, where they found their singer that kind of mimic, But I love how Todd kind of took it and ran it and did his own thing. I mean, does he sound like Jeff Tate? Of course, a lot of it does, but.
He's different enough.
He's different enough. Yeah.
So, and that last one they put out does a Digital Noise.
I like the great album.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it's a great album. Their last, and from what I understand, when their first album they did with Todd was rushed, so the production wasn't that great. The next couple were pretty, were way better, and I really enjoyed those. But the last one was, that one. And they did the cover of Rebel Yell, which threw me completely off guard. And I said, that's really cool, to have them do kind of step outside the box and do something like that. I liked that. But to speak of that, that era, oh man, I think it was disappointing. I remember my heart sinking when I was like, where did my band go?
I think, if you're up for it, I'll talk to Aaron and see if you want to guest on.
I'd love to.
Best and worst of Queensryche. That'd be interesting to go through.
Yeah, I'd love to. That's, like I said, they are my favorite band. I'm like you with Kiss. I have the Queensryche. As a matter of fact, one of the funniest stories I have, I met them several times now. But I met, I think it was Operation Mindcrime 2. So I was in LA and Operation Mindcrime 2 had come out, and I had gotten tickets to go see them, and they did Operation Mindcrime 1 and 2 in a row, all in a row. And they actually had Ronnie James Dio there to sing the Dr. X parts for Mindcrime 2. And they also had, oh man, it's going to kill me now. What's her name? This Sister Mary. Pamela Moore. So she was there. So it was a full ensemble, the whole 9 yards. It was a great show. So I met Pamela Moore here in Chicago. She had moved here at one time, and she had did a listening party for Operation Mindcrime 2. So I got to meet her, and I thought it was going to be creepy, and I'd probably end up, like locked up or something. But I said to one of my buddies, I'm like, I want to meet her. And I just want to take a picture of her and I with me trying to strangle her with a rosary, and then captured it. I killed Mary, but I don't think that would have been okay with her.
You never know.
You never know, though. That would have been epic. But I love the band. When we got to play with them here, there was a big festival. And this was 2013 now. It was years ago. But I remember being able to stand on the side of the stage watching the band. And I was like, okay, my dream has come true. I can just stand here and watch them. Because I've gotten lucky in life where I've gotten to stand on the side of the stage and watch a couple of cool bands. Queensryche was, the Ultimators are my favorite band, but I did also get to watch Dio before he passed. Wow. I was working for a guitar company here in Chicago, and I was at the NAMM show, and a guy came up to me. We were just chit-chatting and stuff like that. And back in the old days, this was 96. Yeah, 95, 96. And I would collect business cards from people, as we did back then. Guy I was talking to about guitar parts and things like that. And the company I worked for, we sold Mighty Mite parts, guitar parts and stuff. And we're chit-chatting and stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, next time I'm, through Chicago and I need parts. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, give me a call. No problem. Hands me his card. Freaking tech for Iron Maiden. And I'm like, what? And he's also their keyboard player. He wears the Eddie mask and he plays keyboards. Wow. So, sure enough, 7 months later, ring, ring, he calls me up at work. He goes, hey, Pat. And he's got that accent, and he's like, gives me a list of things he needs. I'm like, no problem, man. I'll be there. He left me 2 tickets and backstage passes. I still got the passes and everything. I got to go, and I joke. I'm like, I ate Iron Maiden food, man. Everything was a spread. I got to go. They were like, really cool. Let me just come in. I brought them all the parts, and it was Dio and Maiden. They played here in Chicago. And wow. I got to stand on the side of the stage. And I remember watching Dio, and dude's short. He was so short, And I think that was one of the first times I met somebody that I was speechless. Was Ronnie James Dio. And he just comes walking towards me, and everything had out of me like, that was a great show, man. He's like, thank you. And that was it. But hey,
awesome.
It was cool though, and it was awesome to be able to watch that.
Yeah, man, that must have been surreal.
It was surreal. I still think to this day, and then watching Maiden from there. It's although what's really different is the sound mix on stage is so different than out. What the crowd hears, right? So when you're up there, it almost. takes that veil away from the magic of the music, I have to say. So as cool as it is, right?
Yeah, especially now with in-ears. I mean, you could straight up have a regular conversation standing on an arena stage in the middle of a show, right?
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah, it's totally
much different.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, Aaron and I were at that Mountain Music Fest, and I got a little glimpse of that because one of the main stages, the PA went out.
Oh man!
And all you could hear was what was on the stage, and it sounded it was just like a weird mess.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've had that happen playing live where you lose monitor mix or this or that, and it's just like, what is that? And it just everything goes.
I mean, all I could really hear was just the cymbal, the splash cymbals. That's about all you could hear.
Yeah, nowadays everyone, it's funny because I watch shows now, and technology has come so far where bands are using like right behind me here. This is a custom amp I've had built. Here in Chicago, there's a guy that builds these things by hand. So. I was playing Randall's at one time, and he got a hold of me, or a friend of his got a hold of me and said, hey, my buddy Anthony builds amps and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool, man. I want a Saldano SLO 100. I want that George Lynch, Warren DeMartini. Those are like my guys, right? I want that tone. So whatever. I went down to see him at his shop down in the city, and I guess his buddy had told him, this is what he's looking for. So I plugged into this thing, and I was like, holy shit, how did you do this? And we tweaked it a little bit more. I actually have an Ibanez Tube Screamer built into it. Basically, I just click the switch, and it kind of gives it a Tube Screamer thing. But do you want to lug this? I don't want to lug this thing around. So, I mean, the head is here. This is how tall it is. Tall.
Yeah.
And the way he built the speaker cabinet, it's a 4x12, but it's not a traditional 4x12 because mathematically, an actual 4x12, the speakers are not where they're supposed to be for optimal sound. I don't know nothing about this stuff, but that's what he explained to me. So this refrigerator behind me is basically the way the 4x12 should be. So I had this thing built. It's all custom built, whatever. And trust me, everywhere I play, people go, what is that? And it's just got this mean sound. And it almost has like this produced sound live, which I've never been able to find before. But then again, in the Chicago winters and dragging show to show, putting it in your car, in the van, whatever, I'm like, it's ridiculous. So what do we all do now? Now behind me next to it, I have my Line 6 pod, which is what everybody uses now. It's all digital. I can go from a Saldano to a, Mesa Boogie to whatever. And now that, like we were talking about earlier, the landscape of music has changed so much that I've been doing country covers. I've been playing, pop rock, all kinds of and with this little pedal, I can do everything.
You know what I just got? I got it's a Boss Katana Mark II.
Yes. How is that?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like and it's 100 watt, but it's got a 0.5 watt setting.
Okay.
I can just play in the bedroom. The crazy thing about it, just what I see that I haven't, and it's not really a modeling amp. It's like one though.
Right.
Because what I love about this is because I love a lot of high gain crunch. I used to do like a lot of new metal stuff, and I love going to drop D and a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But with this, if I just go down to that 0.5 volts, I can still crank the gain up, and it sounds like I've got a full half stack just cranked all the way up.
Yeah.
It gives like the right kind of chug to it.
Yeah. It's crazy, the technology, man.
But I haven't played around. I haven't still got to get a long cord to run it into the computer where you can download the Black Album guitar tone and shit like that.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to that, but just as a regular amp to have around, and I had it, and I was like, cause I was like, my old drummer, he just got an electronic drum set.
Okay.
With a monitor. And because we just we don't want to start a band, but we want to get together and play
just jam. Right.
Yeah. Cause I have fun playing here at home, but I was like, I want to get out with a drummer and just bang around. Cause I was like, maybe cause I did have a little Line 6, just bedroom amp.
Sure.
There's no way that's like 30 watts.
Yeah.
I put this thing up halfway and I was like, it shook the damn walls. So I was like, on 50 watts, it was shaking the walls.
That's awesome.
I'm going to have no trouble with volume with this.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, like I said, technology now. I went out and I bought a Line 6 250 watt just like a powered speaker that I just plug in my pedal board to now, and it's just perfect. I have a George Lynch wah. The lines, the line 6. I also bought a because I play so many different types of music. So my original band, we do stuff like Queensryche, Doc, of course. Dio. It's like if Queensryche, Dio, and Doc had a baby. That's Catalano, my original band. I joined another original band. A good friend of mine. They were needed another guitar player, and they kept bugging me, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Everything was in drop C. And I'm like, not drop C in all my guitars again. I've done this in the past, but I dug the music because I love Disturbed and Godsmack, and I always joke around. I'm like,
it's fun to play that stuff. It
is, man. I'm like, I'm either gonna play, whatever people want to call hair metal. I still call it metal, my rock, my stuff that I love. Yeah. Or I'm playing that. I'm gonna destroy. Okay, I'm gonna play the heavy riffs, and I'm playing that stuff. So I went ahead and I got I had to decide, okay, what guitars am I going to use for this? And one of them was like my Jackson I got back here, and my Les Paul. And I'm like, I'm not going to drop tune my Les Paul. So all I did was I picked up the Digitech drop pedal, and I took both guitars. I just put them in the D. So it was just drop D, standard tuning. And then with the Digitech drop pedal, I went all the way down to drop C. And the other guitar player was actually playing in drop C. There was no latency. There was no issues. I played live a bunch of shows. We opened for like Puddle of Mud, a couple other, of that era bands here. And it sounded awesome, and I'm like, this is perfect, because now as I'm playing, I don't like the feeling of the loose strings when you drop C. I cannot stand using like any higher gauge string. I don't want ropes on my guitar, right? I hate that. I hate it. So I use 10 gauge normally, and then on my Fender Strats I use 9s. So, but for this particular thing, I was able to just play the guitar normal. And because you're such a loud stage volume, all you heard was the drop C coming out of your guitar, even though it was tuned in standard but drop D. So I love that pedal. I love that thing. It's pretty cool.
I didn't know there was a pedal that would do that.
Yeah, right here. Hold on.
It'll drop it a whole step.
It drops it several steps. See that?
That's crazy.
Digitech drop pedal. Yep.
Yeah.
And as you just go, it'll drop all of these. So if I have my guitar in standard tuning, and now I want to turn on YouTube, and I do a lot of that. Like now I'll just be like, if I'm bored and I just want to practice my chops and stuff like that, I put on backing tracks and I just start soloing over whatever. Yeah. But now I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to play It's Not Love by Dokken. So I put Dokken on, and of course I'm in standard. He's in half step. I just go to half step, and now my guitar's half step.
And it's just called a drop pedal?
Yeah, it's just called a Digitech drop.
I'm tempted to buy one of those.
Yeah, it's only 100 something bucks.
It's like a whole new thing, because like I haven't played regularly in like 20 years. So
okay,
like, all the YouTube stuff, it's all brand new to me.
Yeah, it is.
Like I didn't even know that existed.
That's wild. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it's a cool pedal, and I put that locked it into my gear there, and it just drops it to wherever I want it. It works perfectly fine. At first, I thought I was going to worry about, if it's going to be like too digital sounding or weird, but no, man, it sounded completely perfect. You couldn't tell. And it's one of the most, at $100-something is like the best thing I could ever buy.
Well, what I figured out is there is parts of it that was like riding a bike. There's certain things after I play for a little bit, I'm like, okay, I'm good still. But then I'm like, also, like my right hand is so out of practice.
Yeah.
Like I used to have a great right hand. I was more of a rhythm player, never great at lead.
Yeah.
But I could do a lot of good stuff with my right hand. I was playing one of the more difficult songs my old band used to play. I got about halfway through and I started this pain just shoot right through my wrist.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish this. And I finished it, but I'm like, man, my hand and my wrist are out of shape.
It's crazy. I mean, I play a lot, and even for me, so I broke my thumb on my right hand when I was in high school. And even to this day, so I'm not a very good acoustic guitar player. That's like those are some of my weaknesses. But I started playing at church probably, Lord, now, geez, 7 years ago. Yeah, it was probably about 7 years ago. So I started playing in the worship team, and I bring in my Ibanez and stuff to play. But it was cool. It was a cool experience because it made me. It was like right after my cancer treatment, and at the time, right after I had gotten cancer, my singer had a heart attack. It was just a crazy time. We were like Def Leppard, man. If something could happen to my band, it happened to my band, So it was a really bad time. But for me to continue playing, and I had gotten neuropathy in my hands from the chemo treatment, and I didn't play guitar for 2 years. So I'm like, what better way to kind of get outside of my comfort zone and start playing worship music? I've never played this before. And so I jumped in and I started playing. And I found it to be a lot of fun. It was really different. And you're playing to a packed house every Sunday.
Yeah, it's always a good crowd.
It's always a good crowd, man. It was a whole different shift for me because I had like these old ladies coming up to me because I was jamming up there, man, just doing my thing, And they would be like, "Oh, we love watching you play." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." At one point, I told the head person that was running all the music and stuff like that, I said, "Can you put me on acoustic guitar?" I'm like, because I'm really horrible at it and I really need to practice that. So they put me on acoustic guitar and I didn't realize how much more work I had to do. And then I started to realize how this thumb would go numb.
Ooh.
So I couldn't even feel my guitar pick anymore in my hand. So I would be doing songs that were like I was doing constant strumming, and I loved it. I mean, I was getting into it. It was really, really cool, and there was a lot of good stuff. But then like my pick would just drop out of my hand because I couldn't even feel my hand. And my whole thumb, like this whole part of my hand would just go numb. That was weird. So I was like, oh man, this is. So now we started structuring our set list where I could play and not have to have that issue, or if I knew, hey, I can't play this song unless we put it here in the set, and it wasn't long set, and that was what really irritated me because we were only playing like 5 songs, it's not like we were playing an hour set or anything. It was like 5 songs, and I'm like, if we play these in certain order, by the time I get to this song, I'm done because my hand is shot. So that was like a wake up call, But nowadays, as much as I love all the stuff I used to do and everything, I've been really into like 38 Special and just playing like that classic. Yeah, I saw them. Dude, I saw them in Knoxville last year.
Oh, did you? They were amazing.
Oh, amazing. That guitar tone. It's just sick. We were in, my wife and I were, just this past March, we were in Waterloo, Iowa, of all places, right? And we went there just to get away for a little bit. And I went into a guitar shop, as I normally do every time I go somewhere. I mean, I bought this Jackson when I was in Nashville. I bought my Les Paul when I was in Knoxville. Like every time we go somewhere, I walk into a guitar shop and I'm just looking around, but I never find those golden deals. I always hear people say, "Oh, I found this and it was only like $600." I'm like, why couldn't that have been me? So we're walking through this little store called Bob's Music, and my wife goes, "Babe, is that Les Paul? $800?" I'm like, "What?" So I look at it and I'm like, it can't be, So I grab it off the shelf and I go plug it in. I'm playing, and salespeople come over and they hear I can play. So now they're bringing me like $5,000 Les Pauls. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, thanks, I'll play. So I try them out. They're good guitars, but this guitar had that 38 Special. It's the only way I can explain it to you. It had that tone. Then they're bringing me pedals and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, try this." Yeah, they're like, "Try this, try that, try that," and I couldn't put this thing down. So then I thought it's got to be a fake. So then I got a couple of friends of mine here that are like aficionado Les Paul guys. They like own 20, 30 Les Pauls. It's crazy. And so I'm sending pictures. I'm like, "Hey, is this real?" They're like, "Buy that guitar right now." I'm like, okay. So I went to the guy and I'm like, "Look, I love these other guitars you brought me. Really cool, beautiful." I'm like, "But this is the one. I really like it." I'm like, "But the price, I don't know, man." He's like, "Well, we can knock off $25. I'm like, "Nah." I'm like, "Look, man, if we could do $700 out the door," he goes out back, I've been in sales before. He didn't go nowhere. He went out back. He comes back. He's like, sold, man. I'm like, cool. So I got my deal out of nowhere, It was cool, and now that guitar.
Did you get it appraised?
No, I haven't. I probably will. There's a guitar show coming to Chicago in a couple of weeks that I go to every year. It's in a hotel. It's like in a Hyatt or something like that. And it's like a classic guitar show. And then there's like vintage stuff and other types of that. I might bring it there and have it looked at. But
yeah, you should find out what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you. It's real. It's beautiful. It's just, it was used, whatever. It is what it is. But the guy that originally owned it bought it from that shop and just brought it back and traded it in and got some other gear or whatever. And I'm just like, it's like golden, man. It's beautiful. It's just, it plays like butter, and it's like the guitar I can't put down, but it's got, like I said, the only way I can explain it has that 38 special, just like that rock tone, and it's like insane. So I don't know. Sometimes you find a gem.
Well, that's at this Ibanez I got behind me at the IC 300. Yes, man, and got it from an estate sale, and always wanted one. Yeah, but never could afford the high dollar ones.
Right.
But I've even played one of these before, and I just love the way it played.
Yeah.
There's something different about these, and yeah, if once I start playing this, it's going to be at least an hour before I put it down. Yeah, because it plays so good. It just feels more natural. Because I've got a more expensive BC Rich Mockingbird over here, but it doesn't play nearly as well as this thing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I think and I've talked about this on the show here before too with other people. It's like the price of guitars compared to how they play is for the first thing that ticks me off is like you look at guitars, the prices of them in general, and then you go back to like we talked about Lynch, and then there's Van Halen. These guys just tore apart stuff and threw shit together that cost nothing.
Yeah,
and they made millions of dollars, or whatever.
It wasn't about the guitar so much.
No,
it was about them.
It was about that. It's all in your hands.
Now, a nice Charvel is pretty great, though.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I do have an old San Dimas Charvel. That's another one of my babies. But those Charvels are awesome. But they don't make them like they used to make them. There's a lot.
All of CC DeVille's guitars back from the videos.
Yeah,
he had the coolest fucking guitar. I wanted a BC Rich just because of CC.
I had a. It was a cheap one. I bought a Guitar Center, but I had one of those bright green Warlocks when I was a kid. I loved
Aaron
that
Camaro
thing.
has a Warlock.
Does he?
Yeah.
Those are cool. Yeah, they just don't, like I said, they just don't make them like that. I worked for Washburn. I worked for Grover Jackson for a while. I was like 24 years old, 25 years old. Washburn.
I heard he's living here now.
Yeah, everybody's living there, dude.
Yeah.
Every time I turn on, find out they're all living in Nashville.
If you have any connections, let me know, because like he's somebody I would like to have come to Rock and Pod or interview on the show.
Yeah,
he's got stories for days.
He does. He used to tell me stuff all the time. I mean, when I was working there, I worked in the factory. So the Washburn factory was here in Chicago. And it was walking distance from my house, and so I got a job there. I was like 24 years old, and I was wiring guitars on the line, and I became so good at it they put me in the custom shop. So I wired up Dimebag Darrell's Seagram 7 guitars. I did Melissa Etheridge's guitars. I did we did a prototype for Joe Perry. And we went to the show. I remember Jackal was opening for them, and he played the guitar once, and it was like this beautiful guitar that we built for him. And he just walks on stage, plays one song, and then we're like, oh, whatever. He played it. That's cool, But Grover would tell stories upon stories, and he always felt bad. Like I'm like, tell me about Randy Rhoads. Tell me about But he would tell all these awesome stories and stuff like that. But how do you're working right next to him? You know what I mean? So that was a cool part. I mean, I don't think looking back, I was 24, 25 years old. I should have, I appreciated it, but it's a different, we are young and stupid, man.
We certainly were.
We were, you know, but I mean, at least I had that experience, you know, working on all those guitars, like Nuno Betancourt. I worked on his personal guitars because when I got to the custom shop, I was able to do all this cool stuff.
Well, I got to ask you as a guitar nerd, what'd you think of that Rise solo from that new record?
Oh my God, dude.
How great was that?
It's unbelievable. This stuff, the guy does stuff that makes my, like, I just can't even, I can't even put it together.
And that's one thing I search for now when I look for new bands and stuff is I'm always in search of that awesome guitar solo.
Yeah.
For some reason, it makes a difference for me.
Oh yeah.
And there's songs that have made my top 10 list because of the guitar
solo. Yeah. No, I feel the same. I remember when we were in the studio, you know, and working on, you know, our album and stuff like that. That was my thing too. It was like, you know, my brother and I both did the leads and stuff, and I was a real big stickler on writing the guitar solos at first, you know, and sometimes it was just a one-off, and they like, hey, that was really cool. But it's all, you know, I don't want to say it's all about the guitar solo, but right, being a guitar player, but if it fits the song, right, and if it brings the song out, and it's like almost its own song within the song, that's awesome, dude.
If it can elevate a song,
right?
I know we're going off in tangents.
It's okay.
Do you ever listen to the band Eclipse from Sweden?
Never have.
There's like to me, I'm a big fan of melody too. So
yes.
I like shredding is great.
Right.
But if you've got a real melodic hook in the middle of that, then you've got me.
Yeah.
There's and like that, they're a melodic hard rock band.
Yep.
There's hooks and stuff, and it can be a little sappy at times too, but there's a song called The Hardest Part Is Losing You off the new record, or it's off their last record. And it's got a solo in it that borrows from classical too on it. And
okay.
It sounds like something you would hear at a wedding.
Yeah.
But it fits that song so perfectly. And like, I always look for that. If it's got that where it's like, damn, everyone, no matter male or female, would get into that.
Get into it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So I'm always, in these days, and it's hard to come up with a memmemorable solo now with everything that's been done. So if I hear one that really catches my eye, I always try to like put it in a playlist or something.
Because even the icons, you know, like I listened to, like I dug the new Lynch Mob record, you know.
I hated it.
It wasn't great. I dug a little bit of it, but it's not Lynch Mob, you know.
It wasn't even. I mean, it paled compared to some of his other side.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah.
It was a big letdown for me.
It wasn't, I mean, I loved the first two, obviously, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have to say Dawkins' new album was better than the Lynch Mob album, but there was nothing memorable on it.
I like the Dokken one.
Yeah.
I liked about 3 songs that really stood out. Yeah. After that, it was a lot of filler.
It is. It's sad. Nowadays is what it is. We just saw.
But it was better than the last one. I mean, the last one had nothing that stood out.
No. Yeah, and that sucks. I do. Like I said, they're one of my favorite bands too. But we see him live, you know. I know people complain and bitch about his voice. And, you know, I saw him. So they were here for my birthday this year. And, they played 2 shows. They went and played one at the Arcada and one at the Des Plaines Theater. And my son took me for my birthday to Des Plaines Theater. And my son's always been a Dokken fan because I was, you know, growing up. And my son's 26 now. And he's never seen Dokken with Lynch. So I'm like, you're going to love this because George Lynch is opening and it's going to be great. And then, so we went, saw the show. Next day, I'm at the grocery store. My brother's calling me. He's like, hey, man, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, nothing. He's like, want to go see Dokken and Lynch Mob? They're playing at the Arcada because he lives close to the Arcada Theater. And I'm like, dude, I just went last night. He's like, come on. He goes, I'll buy your ticket for your birthday. I'm like, I'm in. So I saw him 2 nights in a row. I'm glad I did because they did play a different set.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they played some different stuff. And, you know, it does suck. I mean, Don, man, you know, it's his voice, blah, blah, blah. The band is tight as shit. I mean,
he's got a good band around him.
Oh my God, they're amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's like you almost feel bad for the guy because you know he went through so much. But you know, still a good show.
Well, it's in the eye and the ear of the beholder.
It is.
So there's certain bands like I personally would not go see Dokken now just because I know what I'm going to get.
Yep.
And like I'm just one of those people where like I'll even avoid watching newer videos.
Yeah.
I want to remember them how I remember them.
Right.
Yeah. But then there's other bands where I'll make concessions just because I'm such a big fan. It's like, well, at least I'll get to hear some songs I like.
Yeah. That's how I am with talking.
Everyone has a breaking point, and I'm sure it changes depending on the artist too.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands I just don't see anymore. Sometimes I do. I mean, Queensryche comes to town. Like, again, I see them all the time. We just saw Stryper.
They're always good live.
They're freaking amazing live. I'm so bummed that Oz wasn't there, but we went to Indiana for this one. So my wife got me for Christmas last year. They did the Unplugged show.
Yeah.
And so we...
How do you like it?
It was great. It really was, man. Yeah, it was really good. We had front row. It was just great. $50. $50 for front row. And they played
that's really good.
Yeah. They played a very small venue, probably about 800 people in Indiana. And it was a cruise because of the traffic, because it was on a Friday. But if it wasn't for the traffic, it's only like an hour away. But yeah, man, it was great. I wish Oz was there, but they had Poison's keyboard player filling in, like for harmony vocals and playing keys on certain things. So it did work out really well. They put on a great show. They really did, and they were really nice.
Have you been listening to the new record?
I haven't listened to it yet. I know it just came out. Is it good? Yeah, I can't wait.
Definitely a contender for the top spot for me this year.
Nice.
There's a few songs I need to have grow on me.
Sure.
Because there's one trap that Michael Sweet falls into on the last few albums where Metallica did this too, or you'll understand what I'm saying when you fall into the standard blues rock groove along riff. Yeah. It's like you can only get away with one, maybe two songs on a record like that.
Yeah.
You get into 3 and 4, it's like, yeah. I find it harder to grasp onto those, but the good stuff on there is amazing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can't wait to pick it up. It's going to be good. I already had a gut feeling, but their show was amazing. His voice is still, it's still just unbelievable. Yeah, some guys just got it.
Yeah, they're the exception.
I told him when I met him.
I wish all the older bands were that.
I know.
Had kept themselves in that good a shape and took care of themselves, but
right.
Clean living does them good.
It does, yeah. When I met him, I told him, I said, the hardest working man in rock and roll. He started laughing. I said, dude, you got so much stuff going on,
Yeah. And I was watching, because YouTube's a treasure trove for like 90s and early 2000s TV stuff that just gets uploaded there. And it was one of VH1 classic shows of Where Are They Now for the hair metal bands.
Yeah.
They did a segment on Michael Sweet. This must have been like 96, 98 or something. And he's managing a freaking campground with his wife.
Wow.
Like that's what he was doing at the time.
Wow.
And I was like, and then Brian Forsyth from Kix was painting billboards.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I remember that.
A very low time for those artists. And I was like, well, Michael Sweet's just managing a campground. That's bizarre.
Yeah, the 90s were not good to our metal bands.
Imagine playing, being like 7 years ago, I was playing an arena.
Right.
And now I'm doing that. That must have been a real mind, what.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Was the guitar player from, one of the guitar players from Warrant was like working in a music store.
Joey Allen was, yeah. Right. He became a rep for Pearl Drums here in Nashville for a while.
Crazy.
Yeah, I remember that.
You got to work, man. You got to eat.
Well, my buddy Stephen Michael, who does the Growing Up Rock podcast, he ran into Derek St. Holmes at some show around Nashville and brought up to him. He's like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, we worked together in a music store in Atlanta in the 80s.
Oh,
and
wow.
Derek had no memory of him, but Stephen's like, "I remember you."
Yeah.
Yeah, like early 80s, he wasn't singing for Nugent anymore, and music had really changed at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like heavy metal and new wave. Where does Derek St. Holmes fit in?
Nowhere. Yeah.
And that guy's incredibly talented. Still plays out all the time.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, like I said, the music scene has just done a huge change, man. It's sad. It's sad that you can't go out there. I love original music, but like I said, I don't dog on the cover bands. I mean, I know these guys got to work too, and I still love to play, and I still want to get on stage, and sometimes I sell my soul. I did a huge run of country music. I don't play country. I've never played country guitar, and this guy I met here in Chicago, he was from West Virginia, he had a killer voice. We were just at some dive bar, and he was just sitting there with his acoustic and singing. And, one thing to the other, we just start, obviously you start talking, you gravitate, and you start chit-chatting. And he came out to see my my original band called Selfless. It was more like the Godsmack stuff. And he came out to see us play. And, since I lost my lock of hair from the cancer, I wear a cowboy hat on stage. And so he came out, saw the show, whatever. And he came up to me afterwards and he's like, man, I love your stage presence. And he's like, you took command of the stage, this, that, blah, blah. He's like, you ever play country music? I'm like, I have the hat. I'm like, it's about as far as it goes, bro.
I got the uniform.
I got the uniform. What was it? He fit the suit. Remember that? Johnny Bravo. He fit the suit, man.
Right.
So, I don't know. They bugged me a little bit. And I said, all right, man. I'm like, I'll try. So I went to jam with his band, and I was nervous. The first time ever I was nervous because, my wife said, what are you so nervous about? I'm like, these are people that in his band that have played the Grand Ole Opry. I'm like, I cannot chicken pick. I'm like, I don't know how to, I don't know. I'm like, if you ask me to play Dr. Feelgood, I know the song because I've been listening to it since I was a kid, right? Oh, yeah. You want me to play Talk Dirty to Me? I could do it in my sleep. I'm like, I don't know these tunes, So, but I learned the songs. I jammed with them. They liked me. And then I ended up learning 30 songs and, got to play a lot of killer places around here, but it was weird. It's a different vibe. But so I get it that these bands go out there and they're doing what they're doing. But I think one of the downfalls of the whole cover band thing, there's a few here in Chicago that dominate the scene. They're phenomenal. They've been doing it for decades now. Mm-hmm. And then there's like the tribute ones that are really good that, but what I found is that a lot of the cover bands that are out there, it's the same musicians rotating around all the different bits. So there's like no room and it's almost like you're standing with your guitar ready. Do you need a guitar player? I'm in, it's like that, a
lot of that here too.
Is it? Yeah. It's just like,
it's
the way it is.
Although Nashville, it's, there's no problem having a venue space because there's venues everywhere, but yeah, it is a lot of rotating.
Yeah.
The Broadway players will do the tribute shows too.
Yeah.
But it is a helpful. The musician community here is a lot nicer than it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be much more cutthroat. Still could be to a point, but it seems like a lot of them have figured out working together gets you a lot further. Than being the jerk.
It's how it should be. It's cutthroat here. I mean, the Chicago music scene. Like I can tell you, I've been in it since I was 16 years old, and it has changed a lot. I'm 53, and it is cutthroat. It's sad. I mean, I know there's bands that blackball or clubs that'll blackball another band because another band said, "Oh, you don't want them here," or this or that, or they find out how much you charge, and then they go in and charge less. You know what I mean? And it's just it's disgusting, man. It's stupid. But
I've seen that here too.
Yeah. It's sad. There's bad apples and everything.
Human nature.
It is what it is. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, cool. Well, we'll cut it there, bro. I think this was amazing.
Well, I hope somebody enjoys it.
They will.
It was fun to talk to you.
For sure, man. Definitely. This was awesome. Like I said, I mean, you guys have always been a big inspiration to me of doing the show. And like I said, now I just I love podcasting as much as I like making music. It's just another art form, right? The way I look at it. And but I want to thank you personally for giving me the spark to do what I do.
Well, we're happy to take blame.
Awesome. Awesome, man. So cool. Don't go nowhere. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. So say goodbye to everybody, Chris.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. All right, guys, so there you have it. There's my conversation with Chris Czynszak of the Decibel Geek Podcast. What a killer show. What a great show. Please go check them out if you haven't. And if you are here for the first time, because you are a fan of Decibel Geek, thank you. And thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for sitting through the interview and the chit chat I had there with Chris, because that was a blast. It was an honor to have him on my show. Being a big fan of his and Aaron and listening to them for years, during my cancer treatment and everything like that, it's just been uplifting, and also gave me that spark to do my own podcast. And that's why I'm here. So I appreciate it. Check us out at www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. I don't think we have to do the www anymore. I think it's almost known now. So thebeardspeakspodcast.com, man, go check us out there. All the links to our socials are there. You can also send me an email at thebeardspeakspodcast@gmail.com. Tell me you hate me, tell me you love me, I don't care, whatever you want, and let me know. Is there something you want to see on the show? You want someone you want to hear on the show? Something you want me to review on YouTube? Go check us out there. I just appreciate you guys checking out the show, being part of the show, and until the next time, God bless and rock on.